Happy Friday the 13th, and it's a full moon day. See, from there,
You never announced them.
get into the fact that we did speeches already. From there, from those kids going into it, you can still buy things next week. I will print off this and put it in my room. You just have to buy things before or after class. You will not be able to do it during class, just time-wise it will not work out. But I will still have most of the things, and so if I have them and you want to spend points, you can. You'll just have to do it before or after. Alright, then for today's conversation. One, yay, my voice is mostly back. So I'm not passing out. So that is a much bigger win over yesterday. Couple things I want to hit on as we get into conversation for today. One, I will unlock the test for you guys at 4 o'clock today, and it is not due until next Friday. So you have the week, which I've been telling you every day for those of you who listen when I speak, as opposed to just angrily staring at me. Every once in a while, it sometimes pays off to listen to the old people in the front of the room who talk. It might make your life a little bit easier. The idea being, now, here's what I will be doing. Sunday night, if you have not turned it in, I put it in as a 0. But whenever you submit it, you will get full credit. But if not, kids tend to forget to turn it in if they don't see it in there as a missing grade. So as long as you have it turned in by Sunday, you won't have any issues. Otherwise, Monday morning, I put all the ones that are not turned in as a 0. That was my reminder to you to get it turned in. And then as soon as you submit it, I'll be more than happy to give you full credit from there. It's 35 questions from there. I did give you 2 attempts on it, if that tries to help you out from any of those bits. Questions as far as the test thing goes? Yeah. We'll come back and talk more about that in it. I did order a new remote because this one apparently has an attitude. It's been hanging around teenagers too long. Let's see, from there, questions that you guys had before I want to get to our conversation that I'm sure you're wanting to yell at me about here in just a moment. So as it pops up with there, you have the final big confrontation between Inigo and the Count, which is why I wore the shirt yesterday that had the Simpsons-looking character, which was Inigo, when he was writing on the chalkboard, and it says, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die, because that's when Inigo confronts him and keeps saying it over and over again. My name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. And then he prepares, and then he dies. And then you have that moment. Bowen.
Okay.
That was not the screaming death part, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That was a different part.
The movie yesterday.
Yeah.
But he gets like stabbed in the chest, and then he goes and like fights the Count, and then like 30 minutes later he's back to running.
So you're going off the movie and not the book?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what's your question about the book?
No.
Okay, that was a fun conversation. So then, Asher.
Why Homer looking at the ceiling?
The ending. So from there, as we get back to it, the very ending of the book, which again is different from this movie thing, at the very ending of the book, it ends with the fact that they are in the process of escaping from the prince, but the prince is not dead, and then the prince is coming after them, and it talks about the fact that the wounds are reopening, and it comes down to the, oh my goodness, are they going to get away? Are they going to end up dying? And it goes all the way back to that Lady or the Tiger story I did with you guys at the beginning of the year. Do you guys remember the Lady or the Tiger?
Yeah.
And you remember how angry you were with me on that one? The fact that it was the open-ended and you get to choose? Partly why we do that story is because it makes that reference in this book. And so it becomes the whole full circle thing, coming back to the idea of the Lady or the Tiger, getting to make your choice about how do you want the story to end? A happy ending or a sad ending? And you get your choice with this one, whether you want them to escape or whether you want the prince to come after them and stuff like that, to try and help you guys out in some way as far as the ending of it goes from there. And then we did get to the intro to Buttercup's Baby, which is just the very beginning of the sequel. It's just the first chapter and that's it. Silly.
Why does Stephen King write it? He writes horror books.
He does write horror books, but that's because of his connection to Florida, which we'll talk about here in a moment too. And so the fact is that's why he got slightly more power. Bowen.
What's the blue monster thingy?
Oh, that was the other kid that lost points because he kept asking questions like the one about Homer Simpson. So I just kept charging those kids points for being distracting.
I asked a question about Homer Simpson.
No, he did. So you were trying to join the same boat he did, so I just keep charging you guys points for choices. Mia?
We don't have to read Buttercup's Baby, right?
No, you have it, for those people who want extra credit, there's a 5-question extra credit thing next week. So if you read Buttercup's Baby, you can choose to take the extra credit next week if you want. If you've not read Buttercup's Baby, then it would not be a thing that you want to go for. But I throw that out there for the kids who didn't hate it and read it. You get a chance to get up to 10 extra credit points that you can choose to add on to your test grade if you want. And so that'll be a thing next week. But the drawback is what I do is each question you miss charges you a point. They're not super hard, but it prevents kids who just go out there and then just try to guess and then try to cheat off other people. So if you've read it, it's easy. Or you just don't answer it. Any of them you don't answer don't count against you. But if you guess and answer, then I charge you the point for being that kid, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to reward the kids who actually read and not the cheater kids. So I try to find that balance. You look scared. What's up, Carter?
I'm not a cheater kid, but if...
It seems scary. You had to announce that right away.
Well, so if you get 5 wrong and 5 right, does that mean the grade stays the same because the 5 extra credit points?
It's
balance?
worth 2 points for each correct question. And there's 5 questions total.
Like you just
Oh,
said.
well, if you get 2 points...
Sounds like math. Have fun. Sam,
Did they end up making Buttercup's Baby as like an actual book?
we're going to talk about that in just a moment. That's part of our conversation we have coming up. And then that was the intro. Then, yeah, if you read the intro, it gives you all of that stuff. So we'll jump into that conversation because you guys are going to jump to the next part. So, how many people did you send information to yesterday, Sam?
How many people are in the group chat?
Yeah, he was like,
Everybody but
Well, you
Every
didn't
single
tell me
person.
until today.
Except for
not
Alex.
you.
everybody but
And-
Your plan was to make it so
Someone.
nobody
I'll be back.
There's everybody
I
but
feel like that
Maybe me.
though. Oh, don't worry.
What?
I'm
No, I
It's
just
she
thought it was
lost her
interesting.
stuff. It's
That's
not that
your
she's not there.
Add me back.
to make us not look like unabridged
I know.
version.
So, let's begin our conversation, which is going to go this way. For those of you who are unaware, if you did not do the discovery of things, the whole entire book is fictional. From beginning to end, every single thing that is in there, give me a moment, I'm going to pause in a moment to give you a chance to yell at me. But everything in the book, from opening page to ending page, is fictional. Everything from opening page, even like the little reviews, everything is fictional.
Even the guy who wrote it.
Everything is fictional. There is no Florin or Gilbert.
People think they was.
No, very much so. And so the fact that it never existed. One, this book came out in 1972, it was before I was born, which was like 4 years before the internet. So there was no easy way to go and do research. So when it came out, you might not know this if you've not been around adults much, but adults are stupid. And they will just blindly believe almost anything that is fed to them. And so, yes, when this came out, very much people believe that there's people who can't find, there's students in, hopefully not this class, but in my classes who can't find Indiana on a map. So the fact that believing that Florin, and we know this because we have tested them, and they look at us very confused, and it's a scary thought as an adult. But the fact that, yes, them believing that there is a Florin and Gilder is a very easy thing to do. It is very easy to convince people of things if you sound confident and show them things, which is going to be a theme we're going to get to in a moment. S. Morgenstern is not a real person. He is completely made up from beginning to end. So with this, though, people began to believe the whole idea of S. Morgenstern to the point that Goldman actually wrote other books under the name S. Morgenstern just to build this whole idea of the Princess Bride and the fact of S. Morgenstern being a person. You can actually go out and find information about Simon Morgenstern, who is the guy who created all this. Hang on, we're going to stop it. Stupid thing. There we go. I'm going to pause in a moment and give you guys a chance. From there, so as far as being able to find the full version of it, every year I try to come up with a story about having kids find it, and there is no full version whatsoever. The whole idea of Goldman, when he talks about the fact that he cut down chapters and cut out sections, does not exist. He never cut down sections. He never cut out sections. Chapter 4 was never a super long thing that he cut down. He never cut out parts of Chapter 2 or anything like that. It was just an idea that he had that he thought would be somewhat enjoyable. I have one last thing for you. So basically, Goldman created this whole idea as a story, which is also why I don't skip the introduction where the whole thing about the Sandy Sterling and the teacher and stuff like that, because that's not an introduction. That's actually the beginning of the actual story, which is why we always read it, because it's not an introduction to the Princess Bride. It's actually the beginning of the Princess Bride. Owen.
So technically, does that mean this is the full copy
Correct.
of the book?
That is the full copy of the full
So
book.
if I gave you this, I could give
If
you
only you'd
this.
emailed me that last night. Only one kid emailed me. Yeah. Silly.
So does that mean he wrote the sequel?
Correct. Yeah. So he was friends with Stephen King. And so he used Stephen King's name, but he actually wrote the sequel. And so the thing with Stephen King just thought it was such a fun idea that he agreed. And so did Arnold Schwarzenegger and like all these other people agreed to have their names included into it and worked into all these things, because when it came out, I mean, it was a thing for a long time where people just thought that it was a real place and a real story, and so people just kept buying into it. So the fact of being able to join in was one of those bonus things. Unfortunately, Asher, this is where your constant questions about Homer has come back to haunt you, so I've learned not to call on you. So, is it about Homer? What's up, Asher?
Why do you lie to us?
Actually, we're going to get to that. That's actually coming up in just a moment.
I can't trust you anymore.
Oh, you shouldn't, which is the thing we're going to get to also in just a moment. That's one of the things we're going to try and help you guys out
Was
with.
that at the beginning of the year?
No, we're not done. There's more.
The first day.
Excuse me.
What's our whole time that we
So we covered the fact that the intro by him,
Fake.
completely fake. So all parts of that intro and the fact of Sandy Sterling never existed, him having to go out there and his dad doing this whole thing never existed, his parents being dead when he wrote it didn't exist. Parts of it were true. He was in the army, he did write those other novels, and that's part of how you make a good lie, is you sprinkle in truth just enough to throw people off.
He doesn't. I checked the Wikipedia.
You are correct. He does not have a son named Jason, which is why he was able to make fun of him, and because he actually had 2 daughters, which was where he got the idea for the book. He was trying to tell them a bedtime story, and one kept asking for a story about princesses, and one kept asking for a story about brides, so he just combined them and told his daughters a story about a princess bride, and they liked it enough that he decided to then work it into an actual book, and then decided just to screw with people, because screwing with people is fun. And then he just went ahead and went from there and created this entire idea. Which is why he's able to badmouth his wife Helen, because Helen did not exist either. I mean, he was married, but not to a child psychologist and not to a person named Helen. That was also completely made up and part of the entire story that went into it from there too. So that was also part of it. So all of that becomes part of this whole big story that he creates. From beginning to end, one complete story, but we have a little bit more we're going to get into with it. Unfortunately, Sam's discovery last night and his ensuing then sending it out to everybody, which ended up costing him some of the points that he was going to earn, does kind of ruin part of the thing for today. Why? Well, because if you had just sent it to me, you would have gotten all your points. But by then
I
sending it
wrote down
to
points.
everybody,
You didn't tell him.
Was there a snitch?
I wrote down points. You didn't message me back.
correct, I did not.
How was I supposed to
So
know?
why does he?
How'd you find out that he told everyone?
He sent me the message and told me.
That you told all of us?
No.
Today he told me he told everybody in here.
So why
But how
would
does
he
that
respond?
I wouldn't have told everyone if you messaged me back instead of
I didn't
ignoring
charge
all my
him points. He
messages.
didn't get as many points because I was going to give him all the
Sam.
points.
Does he get some
But
points?
why? Because nobody else gained points from it.
True, I would agree on that one. That's why I'm still going to give him like 8 of the points as opposed to the full 15 of the points.
15?
Yeah, that's what you
That's
were.
what he said.
But
Because he ruined that joy for other people, I can't give him the full 15.
I didn't
If he had kept it to himself, then yes.
I didn't have internet yesterday.
That's fine.
Flooded, just
True.
I think so. Like a week
I have
ago,
a house
you
not
did
a reason
it.
why.
Washing machine flooded and it broke the internet.
Did they ruin it for you too?
Yeah, so I sit with
Washing
eighth
machine
graders
flooded.
at lunch and
Internet
the
downstairs.
like,
And the Wi-Fi router.
like a week ago.
Washing machine.
That was pretty
The
much.
washing machine.
Yeah. That's one of the drawbacks to kids being bad. So, Sam, you're the only one, but it
I don't know. I don't
got you
know
at least 8
what
points.
says.
So you-
He got his name up there.
I
did
knew
get his
like a
name.
week ago
Oh,
and I
my
didn't
name's
put
up
it together that the full version of it yet.
Yeah.
I thought Sam was faking, so nobody else would email you the
I thought he
non-abridged
was
version.
lying.
Yeah. You know, he wasn't.
No. You
Since
just
when
type
have I
in,
lied?
Then I
is it
looked
real?
it up.
I did.
Yeah, I told you guys to look it
I
up,
did.
and only Carter did.
No, the
Yeah,
reason
why
I
would
found out it was
Sam
true was
ever
because
tell
Carter was like, wow.
Asher,
So, this doesn't answer why you like
I'm not done yet. We still have more.
Well,
I have a
finish.
question.
I'm trying to, but you guys keep yelling at me. Oh yeah, there's still more. I'm not done yet. There's still more things coming. This is just the beginning stuff. There's still stuff Sam hasn't quite told you yet.
What?
Yeah.
It
I
gets
thought
weird.
you'd been to the list of insanity.
You thought what?
That you'd been to the
He's
list
not-
of
he
insanity.
never
Miss
said that.
Randall said something about it.
Yeah, let's go line.
I love
She's
this
been to your life.
Uh-huh.
That's why she had a sneaky smile.
Uh-huh. It's great, didn't it?
You're evil.
I know. We're gonna get to that's one of the things coming up. So let's see, other things we have for you. So there's no reunion
Trust her
scene.
now.
Which again, I really hate the fact that I was sick and I couldn't be here to read that with you, but the whole reunion scene that didn't get to happen, there is no reunion scene. He never made a reunion scene. It was more just he was curious to see if people would write in about the reunion scene. With the reunion scene, do you remember the lawyer? His name was Kermit Shog. Do you know why that sounds familiar? Kermit the Frog. So when he created this, he was trying to give people a clue that it was fake. So he came up with the lawyer's name of Kermit Shog, thinking that people would go, oh, well, obviously this is fake. What humans did was go, oh, Kermit's a Floridian name. Huh, who knew? And they just went ahead and just accepted the fact that Kermit, instead of being named from the frog, assumed that it was the other way around and that the name came from Florin.
I didn't think it
That was his way of trying to give it to you guys as a gift, and most of you guys just nodded your head. It's also all those lawsuits that he kept mentioning. Yeah, they don't actually exist. There were no lawsuits at any one time because there was no lawsuits happening because he was making the whole thing up the whole way through. So the sequel, when he talks about when you get to the end with Buttercup's baby, he says the fact that he could only create like the first part of it, or he can only translate it. There is no sequel at all. There is just the first chapter of a sequel, and that is all he did. And if you read the first chapter, well, if you like The Princess Bride, it's the same kind of writing, except a bit darker because it deals with like the death of a bunch of the characters. And that was basically Goldman being a jerk. Because he thought it was hilarious to just give you the first chapter of a book where he kills all the characters, then goes, I can't give you the end because legally, when really he was just being mean because he thought it was funny as a writer. So there is nothing else from there. He just begins the second book, kills off a bunch of characters, and then goes, who knows? And then just stops. I mean, it's fun. There's a guy with like no face and he kills off Fezzik right away, but it's all right.
I didn't get to that part.
Did the other books by Morgenstern. So the map I kept showing you, which like every single day I kept putting this map back up there to show you guys.
Yeah, I looked it up, and there's no record of anything.
No,
there.
I just randomly took a map off the internet and then just put a circle on it with arrows.
We're
And,
learning those right now.
and so yeah,
I thought it was just like really ancient.
that's what I watched.
That's how I
Well-
found out it was fake. I was looking up when it went away because he said he went there in like the 70s.
Right.
And I thought I would have heard of it.
Yeah.
If it was still
Because they would
around
have had
back
some
then.
record of it.
You would
I
think so.
couldn't
Well
find
then,
anything.
think about in the lawsuits. He talks about the fact that we can't have the reunion scene because the lawsuit's happening in the 80s from the Florinese lawyers. But how can you have Florinese lawyers if there's no more Florin? Yeah. And so it's little things like that that I've learned that if I just talk fast and then like just point a lot, that you guys just get easily distracted. And so that's where that one comes into. There is no Florin and Gilder, which also brought us to like that.
You did put it in a strategical spot, though, because there is a river there, I think.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I did try to find roughly where it would have been, and I figured you guys would just nod your head and believe a lot of that too. Bowen,
would you say that Lauren and Gilder was made long before time had a name?
Mm-hmm. It's also why the map at the beginning of your book was different than the map I kept showing up there. That was like the other drawn map, and I was like, I like this map better. It's because they're all just made up maps that people did, which is why on one of them, Florin's on the east, and the other one, Florin's on the west, because two different people drew two different types of maps.
Yeah, and the river there isn't close to the same shape.
No,
Like,
not
no
even a little
cliffs.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Sam?
An interesting thing I did see was that Florin and Gilder are stand-ins for Italy and Germany because
Yeah.
they're like two types of coins.
And when I've had kids who have figured it out sooner, and they have tried to present information to me. I have things that there are actually professional articles written that will counter almost any argument you come up with. One of them is one that is a really well-written argument that says William Goldman actually does not exist. And William Goldman is a figment of imagination that was actually created by a group of students at Northwestern University. And the fact that it has like this whole big thing, and it goes in, basically is the whole idea is just to keep confusing people by presenting you with misinformation.
So he does exist then?
He does exist, although he doesn't now. He died
Yeah.
like 3 years ago. So to go back to Asher's question about this one, about what is it I want you to learn from this?
Don't trust you.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. If you are unaware of this, there are going to be people who lie to you a lot. I've been frustrated with government at times, and the fact that there are people in government and adults in general who will willingly lie to people, and they get you to believe stuff because most of humans are too lazy and dumb to verify information. So a lot of what I do is this end part is I lie to you. But I lie to you not out of evilness. I lie to you because I got frustrated and realized if I want you to become better people, then I need you to learn that you cannot trust adults. You cannot trust someone just because they're big and adorable and talking to you in the front of the room. They will lie to you, and some people are going to lie to you with evil intent. And so I figure if me lying to you rocks what you believe in things, good. When you go on to 8th grade, high school, in real life, challenge what adults tell you. Do not just blindly accept a thing because a big person tells you it's a thing, or a big person shows you a map and points to a thing and nods their head and sounds convincing. Verify it. Go out there and look up the information so that people cannot just lie to you and manipulate you. The only way to avoid being manipulated is by actually not being lazy and looking up information. So this is kind of how I want to change the world, through you guys. And so that's why I end with this book, is the fact that it builds everything upon a giant lie. And the lie only works if you blindly believe what I tell you. And I don't want you guys to blindly believe. It makes the story more fun. It's a way more entertaining story if you believe all of it's real. But long term in life, bad things happen to you if you just blindly believe people. Iggy.
Did you lie when you said we were reading this book for advanced English next year?
You're not reading this book for advanced English next year. Oh, you're reading this to prepare you for next year? Yes, that part is true. Because the idea is, here's my frustration. Both of my kids went through 8th grade advanced English, and one of them really liked reading and one of them did not. I get a lot of choice over what I have you guys read in 7th grade, and in 8th grade they don't, because they're getting much more prepared for high school. And so a lot of the books you read in 8th grade advanced English are simply not entertaining. It is old English stuff. You're going to do William Shakespeare. You're going to do stuff like Chaucer. You're going to do these things from old English books that are super thick and written in weird languages, and my kids hated it. So it's one of those things where I needed you guys to get your reading endurance strengthened. So this is long, but it's entertaining. Next year, you are going to get books that are long, and you are not going to find nearly as entertaining. Also, as of now, I have done lying to you. My whole buildup was for this day. Moving forward, This is why I have a different kind of relationship with my students, is because of how I end the year. And I have no more need to lie to you, which is going to be another thing we're going to get to in a moment, because I have one more thing we're going to talk about. I'm not quite done. Nikki?
Next year in 8th grade is like I know we have deadlines for reading. Does that is it still the same or still because I have older cousins and they say their teacher just gives them the book and they're just
Depends. This past 2 years have been weird, so it depends on how quickly they adjust back to their previous reading schedule. And if it was, then yes, very much you have hard deadlines and stuff like that. And so that's, as the world recuperates from the chaos that we've had, I can't answer that completely yet. Asher?
I thought you picked up your pen, so I got you. So, when little people tell big people that they're lying,
Mhm.
the big people tell little people that because they're little people, they don't know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
So what do little people do about that?
This is where little people need to verify. The problem is, big people get called out on lies all the time. What big people do is they buckle down, and they'll usually get angry at you because you're calling them out on lies. What you guys have to do is get better at how you do it. Don't be confrontational. When they lie to you, do what Sam did. Sam went out and looked up information and verified stuff like that. That's what you have to go out and do. When the big people tell you a thing, don't just blindly believe it. You have to just go and look it up, and then you can use that information. Bowen?
How young are you?
45. I turn 46 next week. So, yeah.
Well, he's not lying.
So, the other book we read,
Was also
The Gospel According to Larry,
probably good.
was completely fictional also. There was no truth in that one whatsoever also. It's basically along the exact same lines as Princess Bride, where the whole idea was she was also a fan of Princess Bride and William Goldman and what he did, so she created sort of that exact same idea, which is why your parents had never heard of Larry Fest or had heard of all these things that had happened. But that was the beginning of me lying to you and challenging you. And yes, some of you guys started to figure it out and started to question. And that's where usually instead of lying, I will work to distract you. And I have learned that usually you guys are very easy to distract by usually just having a conversation, pointing in a random direction, bringing a thing up, and your guys' attention spans are about that of a gnat. And so I've just learned to be able to manipulate you in creative ways. But that exact same book of everything that went into that one was also going to be fictional. I mean, it's English. Everything we do, everything we've done so far this year has been fictional. I mean, that's pretty much how my class works. It was all make-believe. Carter?
What about the nonfiction articles that we read?
Well, that one would probably be a good point. The non-fiction articles I can't control as much.
Outsiders?
But that was where you had your... The Outsiders, I mean, it's a fictional story, but it being based on her life was true. But the actual story, well, I mean, there was no Pony Boy. But, and again, that one you can verify because if you read in the back of it, you get the interviews and you can verify that information. And again, if at this moment you're giving me the look of, I still don't know, verify what I say. Or be lazy. Here's where you get your choice in life. You get to either go, the man with the red hair seems kind of on the suspicious side. I should verify what he's saying. Or, that's work. I'm just going to believe everything he says and go from there. You get to make your choice. My worry is that 5 years from now, you guys are voters. And there are going to be people who manipulate you to try and change things in the world. Because there are big votey things that are happening right now. If you guys pay attention to the world, there are things happening with the Supreme Court that goes back to people being manipulated and opinions being manipulated. And it comes down to you have to verify things for yourself from there. That was the last bit of information I have for you. Next week, well, one, this will be unlocked for you guys starting at 4 o'clock today. And then you have weekend or into next week if you want. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to be telling you stories about my past life. Everything I tell you guys next week is true because I'm done lying from now until you guys come back and talk to me. The lying is everything throughout 7th grade. As we move forward from now, you guys are no longer really 7th graders in my eyes. You guys are just almost 8th graders. And so Monday, I'm going to tell you the first story about how I got arrested, which was when I was 7 years old. I was an advanced kid. I didn't want to wait around. I wanted to get started early. Second one will be on Tuesday, and that's when I was 14 years old. And then the third one is Wednesday, and that's when I was 18 years old. That was the last time I got arrested. Knock on wood. I'm hoping to not add another story. The fourth one on Thursday is not a story of my poor choices. It's a different thing. If you've had siblings come through my class, or you have had past kids you know, it's what we call the Brovie Talk, which is different than the Brovie Story. And the Brovie Talk is going to be a whole different direction in conversation in life. Enjoy your weekend! Oh, and do not tell fourth period.
I told like